Live tonight from the virtual Iowa Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 5 of the 2021 RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series. And happy that you're with us on a Monday night, as always, here on RaceSpotTV. We're alongside Jonathan Burke. My name is Evan Pasoko with our producer, Hugo Luis, and our in-race reporter, Dylan Coyle. Welcome to Newton, Iowa. Halfway through after tonight, this Winter Series campaign, and Jonathan, coming off of our first road course race of the season last week, where Matt Danson got a second straight win, and we've got a new points leader all of a sudden after round 4.
Yeah, and Matt Danson is a man on a mission, and I think he's ready to prove it here at Iowa. We'll go to more short tracks on the schedule than any other type of track. This track is very similar to Richmond, as we saw in the first round, but it's a lot wider, a lot better passing opportunities. Should be very exciting.
1, 2, 3 in the championship have won all 4 races that we've seen so far this season. Let's take a look at how those points look coming into this evening. Most of us thought that when Andrew Ferdinand took the points lead, that was it. It was done. But Danson, again, back-to-back with a win at Michigan and a win at Montreal, has a 1-point advantage. Dominic Howell, your season opener winner at Daytona there, 26 points back in third. And then you got Cato, Lariah, the Kyle Trudells, the David Washingtons, just a step further down at 11th position, the likes of Daniel Eberhardt. It may be a battle between first and second, and then third on back. Granted, if you can get that big of a lead in terms of Danson and Ferdinand ahead of everybody else in 4 weeks, you can lose it in 6, no doubt. But Danson and Ferdinand seem committed to making this a battle between those two. And don't get it wrong that Danson has kind of walked all over Ferdinand, right? Those two drivers were so even, both with a great opportunity to possibly win that race at Montreal, but a penalty for Ferdinand took it out of it. A race win for Danson for a second in a row. He ends up getting that points lead. But to your point, Jonathan, you had just mentioned Richmond. That's the one track that Ferdinand has won at so far this year. And again, back at a short track and under the lights again here tonight at Iowa gives him a real good opportunity to punch back.
Yeah, it's going to be a real good opportunity for Freenage, but I also think it's an opportunity maybe for some of these other guys down the field, like Dominic Howe, still in third in the points, is proving how important that win really, really was. He's still third in the points, and he's only 25 points behind Freenage. So if Danson and Freenage struggle, or if there's a little bit of calamity involving those two, it could be an opportunity for a lot of these guys. You can see how close it is from third on down. There's only 25 points separating third from 10th. So I still think it's anyone's game, but Danson and Freenage, if they stay at the front, they're going to be the two fighting.
And do we see a new race winner tonight? As I mentioned, 2 wins for Danson and then 1 apiece for Ferdinand and Howe. Can we see a Cato, a Lariah, some of those top drivers from the Cup Series, the Trudells and others, the Eberhardts, get into the conversation? And, maybe if you're David Washington, 52 back, or if you're Daniel Eberhardt, again, as I mentioned, just off of that 11th in the championship standings, 53 points back, maybe a bit steep to launch a challenge for the championship, but take wins away from those guys, right? Kind of make Danson and Ferdinand fight for some more top 5 or top 10 positions and kind of see what kind of effect these other drivers can play. Of course, tonight is round number 5. After this, we will be halfway through this 2021 campaign with only 1 race left this year, as we'll go back next week to New Hampshire for our first trip there in quite some time, and then short track. As you mentioned, we'll go to Lucas Oil Raceway to kick off the new year on the 4th of January. 1 more road course race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 1 more super speedway at Talladega, and then we'll finish it under the lights in Sin City at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Monday, January the 25th, and then right after that, 2021 Cup Series action is coming your way. Right now, we are in the qualifying session. There will be no bumps this evening. Remember, we had 1 driver bumped in the Daytona season opener, 37 drivers on track, which means all of them will get an opportunity to start this race. And let's talk a little bit more specifically about this Iowa Speedway, the 7th, 8th mile racetrack. Used to, I guess I should say, play host to NASCAR Xfinity Racing, IndyCar Racing, and admittedly, I think it's one of my favorite short tracks on the service.
It's fun to drive no matter what car you're in, whether it be a Cup car or an Indy car, or what we're driving tonight, the Xfinity Series cars. It's fun. There are multiple lanes you can ride here, even in the fixed series. You can ride that high line, ride the midway through the corner, and it's just a good old-fashioned Midwest-style short track that there's plenty of opportunities to pass, plenty of opportunities for bump and runs. It's going to be an exciting race tonight, and hopefully clean all the way through.
And a very different race than what we saw, of course, on the road course at Montreal, where there were no yellows. You didn't have drivers claiming them and dropping at the back of the field. Tonight, that's going to be a factor, but as well, maybe strategy in play. These drivers are limited to 3 additional sets of tires, I believe, down on track. So that's going to be something. If we have a lot of yellows and a lot of 20, 30 lap-ish long runs, that could be something to keep an eye on. There's a look in at our RaceSpotTV onboard cameras. Matt Mara, Gary Weaver, Joe Burgee, Bobby Krug, Ross Cato, and RaceSpot's own Dylan Coyle. We'll be checking in with all of them as this race goes on. But the qualifying session has struck 0. Let's take a look at tonight's IWRAPS starting grid from Iowa. And pole position goes to Sam Nieto. A 23.992 will lead the field of the green flag alongside Braxton DeWeese for that Sim Performance Group entry in second. Matt Danson, therefore, ends up third with Joseph Tice in the number 4 position. They make up round number 2, and then some heavy hitters. Daniel Eberhardt starts 5th. Andrew Farinaj in the number 6 spot. John Ellenberg, Michael Araya back on row number 4 with Jeremy Miller and Nick Silver, your top 10.
Agnel Phillip, who had a brilliant comeback drive at Montreal last week, starts 11th. Kyle Kamer with a 3rd place last week starts 12th. They'll be looking for another good week for those two. Shane Parrish in the 81 and Joe Berge in the 4 on row 7. Dominic Howe, 3rd place in the points, 15th. And Luzinski in the 03 in 16th. Weinmeister in the 48 in 17th. Ross Cato in 18th. Stefan Argabaya in the 09 in 19th, and Brian Chainless in the 25 in 20th for your top 20.
And halfway through, the likes of Bobby Krug and Sean Kalis, 21 and 22, along with Gary Weaver and Kyle Trudell through your top 24 positions. James Ross will start from 25th, and Steve Durham, 26th position. Nick Mara, 27th. David Washington with some work to do in position number 28, and you've got Matthew Mara, 29th, and Michael Kaczynski, your top 30.
Tom Moreno in the 42 and our own Dylan Coyle in 32nd. He's going to have some work to do through the field. Dylan C. Jones in 33rd. I'll double check scoring to see who's 34th. That's Eric Stanford, not being showed right now, in the 19 car there in the wrong place. And Dane Cruz in 36. I believe there's a car missing, and that might be Garrett Hess in the 00.
Everybody else not taking time. So the top 32 take a time in qualifying. 33rd on, going to be provisional. So that'll be Jones, Stanford, Hess, Soa, Sheen, and Cruz. And you heard him giggling there at the very bottom of the Q charts. We'll check in now with our in-race reporter. Dylan, what happened there in Q, and what's going to happen over these 150 laps?
I'm better than that time shows. I'll be honest. I keep having to fix my sound settings. Since I'm hearing you guys, I'm trying to speak to Twitch. I'm trying to hear the engine, the tires, the drivers in the field. I couldn't hear my tires whatsoever, so I didn't know how much I could actually push at times. So I just went for the safe laps, which made... I got positions over the guys who didn't qualify. So dead last when it comes to actually putting a good time in. I love that. Love that for me.
It'll be a good perspective, I think, to look into with you as this race goes on, because there's going to be a lot of traffic out of that front windshield. Best of luck in this one. The lights are out on top of the pace car. We're going to be going green this time by a halfway point of the year. Notably, first and second in the championship. Jonathan not first and second on the grid, so a little bit of traffic early in this one for Faridaj and Danson. Going to be curious to see how they stack up against Sam Nieto, who looks stout.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Remember, though, there was a bit of anger after last week at Montreal. We're going to see these guys get aggressive.
Pace car, get her down and in this time. As always, we're happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us here on RaceSpotTV. Field in the hands of Sam Nieto as we say, let's go racing from Iowa. And an early caution at the back of the field, Steve Soa and maybe Garrett Hess involved in this one on the opening lap of this race. It looked like it was the drivers at the very back of the grid, and that is Garrett Hess on the bottom going right through the 75.
Still optimistic over cooking it into one, trying to gain places. Yeah, they're on the back row here. 00 goes up and, yeah, I don't think realized the Sheets car was still there.
I'll tell you what, though. I'm happy that the Sheets car was there now. We never want to see another competitor taken out so early. How's the damage on their cars looking, guys?
I don't think they ended up back into the wall. No, Soa did go back up. Hess is going to be relatively okay. And they're discussing now, Hess thinks it was Soa, Soa thinks it was Hess. But I think it was just the 00 not seeing him there. Too early,
Yeah.
I would guess, Jonathan, in this race for that to be, you talked about some of the anger and the frustration from a wild race at Montreal. I don't think that's any of that. I think that's just a little bit of a sleepiness maybe going into the first quarter and two cars driving into each other.
Yeah, that's, Iowa's typically, stereotyped for their nice behavior and their nice attitude. That is what we call not Iowa nice on that first lap. And yeah, I talked about a little bit of the arguments last week. We saw Braxton DeWeese and Joe Berge going at it for lap after lap. And
they had to be reminded, by the way, mid-race by race control to not keep taking each other out because they went at it a couple of times.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, like, a short track like this on a night like tonight where it's a night race, it's going to be fast-paced, a lot of passing, and seeing already an incident on lap 1, I'm wondering if there's going to be some hot heads later on in the race.
Well, an early yellow, so not much of an opportunity for these drivers to get into much of a groove or anything. So it'll basically be like just attempt number 2 at starting this race. Once we do it again, no changes for position. In the top 6, Michael Araya picks up a spot over John Ellenberg, but that was really just the timing of the yellow when those two cars were side by side. And something else to note as well, talking about that crazy race at Montreal last week, that a lot of drivers racked up penalty points. So normally drivers are assessed those based on causing cautions, but since you can't do it in a race that doesn't have yellows, for every 10 incident points that a driver got last week, they get a penalty point. So there are currently close to 20 drivers with a incident point. You need to get up to 6 before you actually are penalized and miss a race. So nobody in the danger zone, but guys like Kyle Kamer, Bobby Krug, Ross Cato, and Dylan Coyle with 3 at the top of the board just need to mind their P's and Q's in this one. Hi. And David Washington also on a 3-race probation for some of those incidents.
Yeah, you can't unfortunately rack up those points, and missing races is going to be huge. And we saw last week, how damaging in the points you can just from finishing at the rear. That 90 car is almost out of the points conversation entirely after that spin out of the Senna S's last week and that disconnect. So you got to be here.
Hey, by the way, guys, so a little weirdness in the rule book. Usually on a restart, if there's a crash the first lap after a restart, we go single file. But since it was a start, we're going double file again. But if there was a wreck on this opening lap again, then we'd go single file.
Don't you love technicalities in every little way that small situations can kind of change things? So we will, in fact, stay doubled up. It'll be a restart with lap number 5 behind us, and now Sam Nieto also with autonomy to go when he wants. Green flag in the air. Let's try it again. Couple of drivers high, wide, and handsome in 3 and 4, but Nieto does lead. Watching a side-by-side battle now with the 90 of Daniel Eberhardt there, and that's the number 1 car up the hill. Joseph Tice give the spot to Eberhardt. He'll go to position 4, and the next driver on the move, the 88 car, that's Farinaj, trying to work on the inside.
I want to circle that 44 car, though, already up on the high side, has big momentum, it's going to get
Oh, we got someone spinning into the grass, saved it, though.
No yellow, we're okay. That is Stephen DeBoge down on the access road there, basically along the front straightaway wall. He was 3 wide in turn 4 when he got turned. Again, no yellow, we stay green. It was a very soft spin there, and he's very happy that there's that paved lane down on the inside fence, or he could have been in the wall. He'll drop all the way to the rear of the field. Again, no yellow, we stay green. Also, housekeeping notes, both Garrett Hess and Steve Soa that were involved in that last incident are in the garage. Their nights are done early.
Another point for Wawa.
Is that what, 3 or 4 to 1?
4 to 1, my friends.
So not locked up yet, but not looking good in the battle between Coyle and Sheets, at least if you're pulling for that Sheets machine. Single filing out your top 10 or so. There's a challenge to the inside. It's Dominic Howe trying to make a move on John Ellenberg.
And we're really seeing right now this top and bottom line competition. Some guys are using that top line really good. Michael Lariah has picked up a few spots already. And Nick Silver's also going up there, but it's going to be challenging, I think, to overtake if both lines are coming in really, really well.
And most of the track now single filing out for the moment while these drivers try to set themselves up and make some moves. A challenge further up there, and I think that's the number 3 of Braxton Deweese, but a great qualifying effort in this race despite not being one of the drivers top 15 in the championship, but right now fighting side by side with the number 1 Machina Joseph Tice for third. Tice is in fact the one challenging Deweese. Deweese started second, fell to third because Matt Danson made a move on him. A little bit of different colors on the 05 Chevy tonight. He's in the holiday spirit with that festive 05 Chevy down on the bottom, and you can see when the cars use the top side there, Jonathan, they're not just outside of the cars on the bottom. I mean, they go up a lane or two, and look at Deweese. He'll split the gap, go to the inside, not only holding off Tice, but trying to make a move on Danson for second.
Yeah, and he got that draft off of Danson as well for good measure, but this is just making Sam Nieto smile. He's watching everyone fight behind him, and he's just all by himself. And the 3 goes up the hill. The problem with that high line is that if you overcook the entrance, you could really, sacrifice a lot what you worked for in that high line. And I think that's what Deweese is doing wrong compared to Michael Lariah.
I'll tell you one thing, though, guys. I just lost 6 or so spots over a course of a couple laps going on the low line. So I feel like the high line is where it's at.
Just saw that on our scoring and timing as well. Full running over the top of your screen. Here's an onboard look on the right-hand side of your screen. Chasing down the number 44, Lariah. You're on board with Joseph Tice, who started this race 4th. He's down 1, but, I mean, as you mentioned, Jonathan, the great battle here between 2, 3, 4 cars, however many want to be in it on any given moment. And Nieto hasn't been able to get too far away. But again, as long as these guys keep fighting, he should be good. But now that Danson has held off that challenge from Deweese, he's starting to reel him in. Danson better than Nieto, a 1/10 of a second last lap. This time by the start-finish line, better by a 1/10 of a second. Again, in fact, the best car on track last lap was Matt Danson. So as we fight for third, side by side, Lariah challenging to the inside of Deweese. We've also got Danson reeling in, your race leader.
Dylan Jones just got into the wall up in turn 2 up high. It's the overcooking that you were just talking about, Jonathan.
Yeah, you gotta use a little bit of brake when you go into these corners. You can't just let it float in. You gotta be calm and a little bit gentle. If you get in too hot, you're going too deep, and it's gonna sacrifice you a lot of spots on track.
And here's your onboard look now, and the in-sim look, if you will, with the Fast Forward Esports entry of Ross Cato, one of our many onboard cameras we'll be looking in with tonight, who's been holding his own, very festive in his own right. On the left-hand side of your screen there, started 18th, rides 18th right now, and is trying to chase down Kyle Trudell, who's been on the move. Trudell +7 in this race. That's the second best, only to Gary Weaver, a little bit up the road in the number 15 spot. So when you get passed by somebody who, at least at this juncture, you can say is faster than you, and you can see Cato had to put a lot of wheel movement in there at a 4 to try to keep the car underneath him, you can learn a little bit riding in behind and maybe pick up some things.
Yeah, just learn your opponent, stalk your opponent. Try and find a way around and find which line's better. You can see this mid-pack back here is going to the high side, where I think that front few are still towards the bottom at the moment.
I'm feeling very tight now. I'm struggling mightily right now. Started off pretty comfortably. Now I'm just not finding any grip. I like a loose car, and this is a very tight one right now.
And we're taking a look at you now, riding in the number 34 spot ahead of Garrett Hess, who's rejoined the server. I know I mentioned Hess and Soa both went to the garage. Garrett Hess had an issue with his computer, booted it back up, got on track, and he's 14 laps down. Not going to get much more than that, but he does get a single point from Steve Soa, who manually parked the car. He'll finish 36th out of the 36 cars who actually made the start. Interestingly enough, no Dane Cruz, no Liam Sheen, 2 cars that were here for practice but did not make it to the grid. That's why our field sits at 36 cars. There's Gary Weaver, who I mentioned a little bit ago, was up a handful of spots. It is rocking the VR goggles tonight in his NVIDIA entry. Gary started 23rd. He's up to 17th at the moment, but he's under fire. Cato to his inside. You've also got the 03 Leszczynski in the mix. Kyle Kamer as well. A great mid-pack fight, about 5.5 seconds off of the race leaders.
Something I wanted to note, bringing up Dylan's point that the cars were going away. Best lap times were 24.2s. The leaders are all in the 25. There's almost a second fall off already, and we're only 20 laps really into the run.
And what are we thinking as look at the 51 car? That was Crew getting pushed up a little bit there by Kamer. Dylan, obviously you're in the car. What are you guys thinking strategy-wise in this race?
I'd be more willing to go for fresh tires earlier with the way this car is driving right now. I feel like, and I don't think it's a matter of me just not being necessarily a strong driver, even though I'm not. I think going low and trying to make a pass down the inside for such a long time killed my tires so much here. I mean, it's very bouncy. Down low, there's a lot of, it's not a smooth surface the more inside you get. And I feel like, we're talking about lap times for the leaders falling into the 25s. Probably still a half second off, but my last lap time was a 25.6. So, lap times are awful right now. I really do feel, I think Tom Moreno is starting to drop a little bit to me. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I still think, I'm curious what you guys think. Maybe the inside line is what has necessarily killed my tires, because I feel like that's what it was.
I know that the bottom's going to work at some point, but it's probably, is it the first lap? Is it the first 5 laps of the run? But it does look like, as we watch the battle with Bobby Krug here and on board with him, he's making a move on the outside of Ross Cato for 18th position. Certainly, Jonathan, looks like a race to the top, right? Krug went to squeeze through there, and now behind him, Brian Chambliss going to do the same thing in the 25 car to get around Cato, I should say, in that 12. It certainly looks like all these drivers mid-pack here, who are in the 25.5s, 25.4s, depending on if they're side-by-side on the lap or not, certainly preferring to go to the outside. That doesn't mean that Cato's going to get swallowed up here. He's doing a good job of fighting back against Chambliss, but assuming that outside can set up the corner while they get such a run on exit.
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, if you're on the bottom, and we're talking about if Dylan is running that really, really tight car, if you're going to drift up in to that outside lane, you have to lift on the bottom. You have to give space, as we see Cato and the 25 getting very, very close, and I don't think there's going to be much space given. We're not even 100 laps to go, and Kyle Kamer trying to find a way to go. He's been towards the bottom, has that 8 machine, but now he's looking towards the high side. I think everyone's trying to really find a groove and a rhythm right now. No one's really found that perfect line or that perfect way to get around yet.
Things have stabilized a little bit at the front of the field. I know we mentioned Matt Danson was chasing down Sam Nieto for the race lead. There's your top 2 on track right now at the moment. The difference is going to be about 0.4 of a second this time by. So Danson had closed a little bit. Nieto opened it back up to about 5.5, 6/10 of a second or so. And Danson has been the better car by about 1/10 of a second the last couple of times by. The good news for the race leaders is they're still about a half a track away from dealing with lapped traffic, which if we continue with some long green flag runs, certainly going to be something that is a factor later on. And here's the teammate battle as we pick up the number 32 and the 23 machine. It's Matt Barra in 30th position right now, trying to chase down Nick Barra up the road in the 32, and we're on board with Matthew with his VR goggles. Again, seems to be a popular choice throughout the field here this evening. Fighting side by side with the 81 car of Shane Parrish, who's going to go to the inside, and looks like he'll complete that pass at a 2. Can Matt Barra fight back? He's right on that fence at a turn number 2, and by the time he gets the car straightened, you're already in turn number 3, right up in the back straightaway here at Iowa. Not that long at all.
No, it's not, and coming out of turn 2 as well is a bit difficult, as the front straightaway is slightly banked, but that back straightaway is a bit more flat. So when you come out of 2 and lose it like Matthew Mara did, going a little tight, that wall comes up ridiculously quickly, and you can tell that 23 is a tight race car right now.
And you can tell when you're starting to go towards the wall, and he still seemed pretty calm on the wheel, wasn't having to kind of make some drastic movement, but again, trying to be as smooth as possible is going to help you keep those tires on this thing into a run. And then further on back, another one of the festive cars in the field here tonight. That's Steve Durham in the number 10 machine. There's a look at him. You can see quiet on the radio, at least at the moment, using not VR goggles after a streak of drivers who were. Steve started this race in 26th position. He's in 32nd, and is he typing mid-corner? Up the road, there's issues, though. That is Matt Morrow. We had just saw that he struggled in 2, and immediately afterwards, he has the same issue in 4, although this time he smacked the fence.
And that could prove really, really costly now. That could be even worse for his wear if he bent any of the toe or if any of the steering is slightly off. Just a light touch on that outside wall, it could make it worse and make that wear go by much quicker than it would on a fresh, clean race car.
We'll see if it hurts him. He was already down after starting 29th. He's 32nd at the moment. We'll see what Mara's lap times look like, as now the 00 machine is into the picture again. That is lapped car Garrett Hess. Not a battle for position against Steve Durham there, but of course on fresher tires because he is fresh off of the pit lane after having a blue screen on his computer up the road. How about some 3 wide? Inside is Kamer. The bottom is the 09 of Steven DeBogie. And up top, you've also got, I think that's Kato there in the mix as well in the 12. So a huge pocket of cars here midfield. Last time we checked in with these guys, they were 5.5 seconds off of the race leader. Now they're 9.5 seconds off of the race leader, but still fighting just as hard as ever.
Yeah, that 09 machine coming back from that little incident out of turn 4. Looks like he's gotten a good way to get around the bottom, even still with these older tires. He's getting to the back of Chainless right now, but they're kind of just stuck in this little rut. If they stay too wide, Kato almost got in the back of Chainless too. If they stay too wide like this, they're really not going to be going anywhere.
You're just slowing each other down. I mean, look at this group, though. I think the lead car you could say is Chainless. This is a group of cars, 17th position through 26th. This whole pack of cars, and they're going to touch. It's Krug. The 8 car pushed up, touched the 51, and a great save to keep him in one piece for the moment. Now there's a touch behind for Stanford, who got hit by Michael Kaczynski. They are also fine. And to finish the point, this group of about 12 cars within 1 second of each other seem like they're trying to take each other out now. They are all over each other here mid-pack as we work lap 40.
Yeah, when you start losing the tire wear and it starts going away and you get tighter and tighter, it's harder to race side by side like this. You start drifting up, you start losing control, and I think we just saw it right there. This whole pack lose control is Kamer drifting up into Krug. Kamer's probably working ridiculously hard just to keep that car on the bottom right now, and you can even see it on the entry to the corner. There's not really much the 8 can do, and not really much the 51 can do at the moment.
And he'll clear him. I mean, we know that the top was, at least earlier in this run, maybe the preferred place to be, so you have to guess that Kamer was working real hard there on the bottom. Krug also with a little bit of damage. I can't tell if there's anything on the front of that 51 machine, but he definitely has left rear damage. David Washington in the mix as well. Started 28th, he's up to 22nd. That's him way up the hill, fighting side by side with the 19 machine of Eric Stanford. So wherever you look here at Iowa, there's a battle somewhere on track, and no shock that it's the mid-packers that are kind of all over each other. You just can't find some separation. The likes of Jones, Kalist, and Kaczynski even finding, you can see those drivers just behind this group that's too wide for a couple of rows.
I am currently the 1 car getting lapped right now, so I'm getting a very good look at how everybody in the front of the pack is driving. I'll tell you what, they're just really able to drive comfortably going down low to up high. It looks like they're almost drifting in a way. And not to complain about my own car right now, but I still feel terribly tight. I'm sure they do too, but there's still some grip that they all have somehow, and we're even talking... Oh, cuts me off a little bit right there. And if we're even talking about, you know, just drifting the car a little bit through the corner, I feel like they all are able to do that a little more strongly than me. Or I just suck.
Is the thought approaching 1/3 distance that maybe people go for a two-stopper, or is that just too short and we're going to see kind of everybody at halfway?
You know, I'm just going to stay out myself. My strategy is just stay out until everyone else starts coming in, and then hope that there is a yellow. I mean, because I'm not sure how up the field everybody else is, and if I'm the only lapped car on the, or the car on the lead lap. The only car that is not on the lead lap that is a lap down. I don't know. At least for me, I'm just going to wait it out and see what happens, and just there's nothing I'm racing for right now except the possibility of getting back on the lead lap, because I am having a bad race on pace. And I didn't think I was earlier. And what happened, I mean, again, I still think, as I get into the wall, I still think that it's a lot from going down low. I wasted so much of the grip that I had. I don't know. I really don't know. Kind of lost for an explanation here.
You'll stay in that lucky dog spot for maybe one more lap, because Tom Morano in 33rd about to get put a lap down by the race leaders. There's a bit of side-by-side between the 09 of Aboge and the 03 of Leszczynski, and Morano has pulled over and out of the way for the race leaders, so the number 42 Sletton Company's Ford Mustang now falls into that lucky dog position, and just kind of monitoring the times up front. Not a lot changing, so might as well watch these mid-pack guys go at it, elbows up, and you know, almost 3 wide here with Chambliss thinking about going to the very outside. The 09 clears. They're all going to slide up on each other, and Chambliss going to fight his way to the outside.
I did not think there was enough room between those cars. Oh no, he drifted up into him a little bit, just a little bump. You know, you don't have to come home with a clean race car, just a good finish, I think.
I mean, they're racing real hard, right? I mean, we talk about, you know, Dylan struggling to keep the tires on it, and it's really pushing. I mean, you would think with how hard these guys at least appear to be driving it that they'd be doing a lot of the same as up the road a battle. Jeremy Miller now just ahead of Joe Burgee.
I think it's that front 13 have had a safe time just kind of running by themselves, saving tires, because you notice when Dylan was getting lapped there was a lot of gaps in between drivers. We saw a huge gap between, what was that, Freenage and Eberhardt, and then another gap between Howe and Tice. Like, there's gaps that are forming. I think the front is being very conservative, while the mid-pack is like, look, we gotta go. We gotta fight, and Joe Burgee's looking for a fight right now.
When he can to find his way through. Behind them, you can see there is some of those fast cars. Daniel Eberhardt and Michael Lariah side by side in a battle for third. That's Eberhardt on the bottom, Lariah on the outside of the racetrack. And for all of the separation that you've seen amongst the leaders, it's not happening top 5. Right there, that's the 05 Adanson in second as Eberhardt clears Lariah. And then right there is the 2 of Sam Nieto. So Nieto, all race, has really never been under fire now that we're past 1/3 distance, 55 down and 95 to go the next time by. But he's never at any point been ultra comfortable, and his advantage at best has been about a half a second. Looking back to Nick Silver, somebody who we haven't talked about much tonight. He started 10th. He runs exactly there. Got passed by that 86 car of Dominic Howe earlier. Howe +6 on the night, and looks like Silver wants the spot back.
He was one that went to the high side early, and I think has stayed committed to that high line. He doesn't really want to run the bottom, and I think that's maybe helping his tire wear a little bit as we see the 86 getting loose out of that corner. I mentioned turn 2 might be a bit of a struggle with how the banking comes down off the corner, and I think as these tires wear and wear, it's going to be a struggle. But you didn't mention it, that top 5 has closed up, but Andrew Freenage sitting almost 2 seconds behind that group as well.
Yeah, that is the separation. Normally it's Freenaj and maybe somebody else, right? And then the big gap, but Freenaj in 5th, 2.9 seconds off. Lariah out the road in 4th, only about 0.8 of a second off of the leader. Here's a split shot in view in that battle for 9th and 10th position. Dominic Howe continuing to work on the inside of the racetrack, but Silver, you mentioned, committed to the outside. And what you can see, looking off of Howe, here comes Silver with the big run, but he won't go to the inside as there's another driver in tow, and that's Agnew Phillip, who seemingly was pretty poised to have a good result last week at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Got a very good starting position on the grid for that race, and then unfortunately for him, had an incident, lap 1, spun the car out from 4th, and came back for a P11 finish. So he rides exactly there, 11th on track right now, but at least maybe hoping tonight will be a lot less eventful than it was last Monday.
He really showed us too that he's the fighting driver, a fighting spirit that never gave up, and coming back from that heavily damaged car as well. It was not just a little bump we're talking. It was head on, I believe, in a turn 7, and a lot of damage. But he's looking right now to break into the top 10. He's been pretty smooth and consistent, and I think Dominic Howe is holding up Nick Silver in the 96 a little bit, or 94, excuse me.
We've seen Phillip close the gap a little bit since Silver got to the 86 machine, and again, the 24 seemingly okay with running up on the outside, but run the risk of when you leave the bottom wide open, will Phillip drive it in there, and is Silver going to have to be defensive for P10 before he can go on the offense and try to take that number 9 spot back from Dominic Howe. For perspective, it is about 6.5 seconds off of the race lead. Here's a good run down the back straightaway, but again, by the time you get righted at a 2, you're already in 3. Your exit of turn 2 basically has to be the setup for the next corner, because if you're a little bit tight, a little bit loose, you don't have time to catch the car and then set up where you want to be. It's 2 seconds tops, it feels like.
Yeah, it's not a lot of time, and I think that's where Nick is really, really struggling right now. Is he's getting these great runs out of the corner. He's to the back bumper of the 86, and he has nowhere to go with it. And I think now the kicker is there have been some of the slower cars towards the rear of the field that have come down pit road, and Nick is all over that 86, but he doesn't want to come down to the inside.
And a poor lap for Matt Danson. Just watching that timing and scoring at the top of your screen, I just noticed from 2nd position down to 4th in a single lap. So he got passed by both Daniel Eberhardt and Michael Lariah. You can see Lariah up the road there. So I don't know what happened with the 05. I don't see any damage. But that was just a really bad lap 2 laps ago. And Danson, who we were just saying was a couple of tenths off of the race lead, now is at the back of this caboose and dropping quickly, already 1.3 seconds now behind the leader.
Yeah, I need a caution like right now. This is bad. This is my most disappointed. This is the most disappointed I've been so far this season.
I'm wondering if that 05 is just overdriven the tires and has just kind of raced to his limit, trying to keep up with Sam Nieto, and I think Eberhardt and Lariah have done a good job saving their tires. Eberhardt's really been the class of the field so far in these later stages. He's moved up all the way to 2nd, has that 90 machine. And Danson has fallen off. The good news is he's still in front of Freenaj, and Freenaj is still a ways behind.
Not many nights, Freenaj going back to Montreal, of course, not many nights is Freenaj just going to be a P5 car. Of course, the 2-time defending champion of this series, but last week did finish 5th at Montreal. That was after leading 19 to 40 laps and having the fastest lap of the race by, a healthy margin over anybody else. In this one, he's just been 5th all night. So the 3-way battle for the lead, the left-hand side of your screen, the right-hand side of your screen, the ongoing fight between Howe and Silver for 10th position on back. But at least for Danson, in 4th, yes, he has dropped. Still ahead of Freenaj, but again, that's only a 1-point difference. Even if the roles were reversed, right, and Danson was a P5 car all night and Freenaj was 2nd and fell back, this is the night where you have to get an advantage. The difference between 4th and 5th is only a point. And I don't think any of these drivers have a bonus point. It's been Nieto all the way. So Danson, you're not going to get much, right? It's only going to be 1 point.
Thank you.
There is the caution. Lap number 68. It is just shy of halfway. And the 4 of Joe Berge is the one that's around.
These two are in an intense fight. And like I mentioned, sometimes you just drift up and there's nowhere to go, and hopefully that 4 does not have a lot of damage. That 27 took a beeline to the inside wall.
Let's watch it again from high above. It's Joe Burgee and Jeremy Miller. Once, twice, a couple of pieces of contact, and
look at that scatter by everyone else in the field to avoid that stop number 4 machine. It's a good thing it's a bright yellow on it.
You know, Tom Morano, I think, is going to get the lucky dog here. He was, for some reason, falling back like a rock. And I was a second behind him. Is he the lucky dog?
If I do math correctly, I believe. Yes. This is Joe Burgee's last one in the lead lap, and here come the leaders down pit road.
Okay.
Yeah, race leader is going to be down pit road. Let's track this pit cycle. Not likely to see any surprises. Everybody going to go for 4 tires and fuel. We were just about 7 laps away from halfway home, and we expected some pit stops to happen anyways. So nobody really shocked that the service is going to come here. So this is going to come down to executing pit stops clean for the race leaders around that left-handed bend on the inside of turn number 1. If they can all execute, and who wins the race to those green cones, that white stripe is where they're going to be scored.
I'm taking the wave around here.
Looks like the 25 has either missed his box or has only received fuel, because he is the first one out. But there goes Sam Nieto. Great job by the 90 machine to keep second place.
I think no changes off of pit road. It looked like everybody in the same order, with the exception, as you mentioned, the 25 of Brian Chambliss, who was way ahead of everybody else, and he did not find his pit stall. Sometimes we'll see Brian and some of the drivers intentionally drive through, but I don't think that was the game plan from 15th on track. I think Chambliss just missed it on pit road. That's the only thing I'm thinking of. I don't think he would intentionally want to miss the stall. Who knows? But dropping from 15th to 29th likely, last of the lead lap. Seems a little bit questionable. Dylan Jones was going to get a lap back, but I don't think he will now because he has opted to come down pit road. Dylan, you mentioned you were going to stay out and go for the wave by. Not the only guy. I see Mara, Leszczynski, and Krug out there as well with you, hoping to get laps back.
Yeah, they're an extra lap down. I feel like, well, I'm not going to ask you guys to make a strategy call here, but would I rather be the only car a lap down with fresh tires or on the lead lap with old tires?
You will be swallowed up like no tomorrow if they're running those best laps of 24.2s and that old tires.
That's all I needed.
I would have gone old tires, but on the lead lap, because I feel like they're going to wreck again. But we did go after that first lap incident with literally the cars in last and second to last, green all the way. So who's to say is you're down pit road, and we also see Chambliss now coming back down pit road after missing it. It's going to cost him a ton of positions. Again, he was 15th, so I'm curious to see where he will fall to, but it's definitely going to be outside of the top 20.
Yeah, I think the right call for me at least is I didn't know exactly what to do. I think either or would have been an okay option. I feel like the only thing here, as long as I can be the only car a lap down, which can very well happen, or the first car a lap down, then I could potentially, get the lap back. I'll have to watch out for this pace car here. I've got 7 seconds left of optional repairs.
Yeah, the other thing too, like Evan, I know you wanted him to stay up, but if that optional repair was still on that right side and that tire's already pretty worn down, it can make it worse. I've hit the wall tons of times at the 1.5 miles on the right sides, and it will make those right sides bleed. Just any little bit of damage, little rub, anything like that. So I think for Dylan's own safety, it would be best, because what if we did go green up for a while? He's going to be swallowed up whole.
And the safety of everybody else on track.
Well, the other cars definitely need a yellow, right? Because they're going to forego pit service, so you're going to be one of 6 cars a lap down. It took about 40, 50 laps for you to get caught and Miranda to get caught, so I think that's your window. And if we go any longer, granted, those cars who stayed out to go from 2 laps down to 1 lap down, so Burgee and Krug, Leszczynski, Mara, they're going to be in a spot where they might have to come down and pit. depending on how long they can go, because again, they're going to get no service to get back to the tail end of the lead lap. They're catching up down the back straightaway, back up at the front of the field. The lights are out on the pace car, and Sam Nieto going to start the second half of this race with 77 laps to go at Iowa. Green flag flies. We're back underway, and here comes Michael Araya. It was a slow start for Eberhardt.
Machine this time. The restart now is paying the price. He's down to third, and now Freenaj and DeWeese are going to try and make him a victim, but now he's got the inside again, and he's trying to get by Matt Danson.
He almost drove in to the quarter panel of Matt Danson, who cleared him, had to get out of the throttle, and now Eberhardt down to position number 4, watching the fight for the race lead. Is the closest they've been to Sam Nieto. He's led all the way, but here comes Laraya. He'll go to the inside at 1 and 2, but he can't make it stick. Nieto going to fight back down the back straightaway. They'll be even in the run to turn 3.
Araya's like that outside, but he's able to get it done in the inside. We can see if Nieto gets a huge run. He's back to the rear bumper right here. It's going to get dicey again down in the 1.
The new race leader, that's a bonus point for Laraya for leading a single lap. First one led under green by somebody other than Sam Nieto. So the run out of 4 wasn't enough to defend the lead, but it was enough for the crossover. Now it's a role reversal into turn 3. Nieto's going to be the one all the way to the bottom. It's Laraya on the outside, but the 2 car can't clear him off the corner. So the advantage to the 44 again. Lap led by Laraya. Nieto tucks in line, and what a restart for the 44. Probably a combination of Eberhardt having a poor start on the outside of the front row, and also Laraya having a great run from the inside of that second row. But he was up to second by the time we got to turn 1, made that pass quick, and is instantly about 0.4 of a second ahead of Sam Nieto, who's now going to have to deal with Matt Danson. Also behind him, you mentioned him, Andrew Freenaj has gotten around Daniel Eberhardt. He is in a race high position 4.
Yeah, it was a beautiful restart by Michael Laraya, and then able to capitalize now by taking the lead. But Nieto has driven a really, really good race, and I think it's going to really show right here as he's going to try and defend from that 05 at Danson. And now a charging number 88 of Freenaj, who's been really, really quiet so far. Maybe he can make a little bit of noise here in the second half.
Just seeing if Eberhardt can kind of pick it up here, because it was a poor restart, yeah, but it's not been a good, handful of laps since then. You've also got Agnell Phillip, who last time we checked it was 11th. He's up to P6, so there's a lot of drivers in the top half of the field here who really took advantage of that yellow. Remember, the top 4 had checked out by some 3 seconds over everybody else. You throw them under a blanket now, and you are watching the fight for P2. Michael Araya is driving away now, I think, with the biggest lead we've seen all night at 0.8 of a second over Sam Nieto. That's about double what the 2 car got on one of the best advantages. So battle for the race lead. The left-hand side of your screen, right side, watching the number 12, Ross Cato, trying to defend 13th position, but in a good fight with the 48 of Darren Winemaster.
To bring it back about that gap that Laraya's put on Nieto, I'm wondering if Nieto has kind of learned from that first stint that he needs to save the tires and try and be better on the long run, because he's kind of realized that Eberhardt was really stronger in the late run, and that's maybe why that 90 is not really moving up, and that 94 as well of Agnell Phillip was making moves late in the run and was stronger on the long run. So maybe that 2 is just trying to save his tires now, and he's going to wait until that 44 just burns it all out. That flat-out motorsports machine is flat out at the moment, and he might pay the price in about 20 laps time.
It seemed like that Nieto was good early in the last run, and they closed in on him late. So it would be interesting for the opposite to happen this run, right? Maybe he learned from that he wants to take it a little bit easier now for the speed later. But again, it would be the opposite of the strategy that was employed on that opening run. So that'll be an interesting thing to track. There's the number 98, David Washington, halfway to the front from where he started. Started 28th. He was in 14th, make it 13th now as he gets around Winemaster. He will not go to Kyle Trudell to get P12 quite yet, as That number 48 car driving it in hard on the inside. And how about Joseph Tice? Haven't talked a ton about that number 1 machine, but it is Dr. Pepper Chevy just a step back in this battle as he rides right now in position number 16 on track. It has been quite a fall from where he started in 4th.
And he was up there early on in the run as well, and I'm wondering again if he was stronger early and just faded late. And you even see the 86 back there who was fighting for P10 is now fighting for P16 and 15. So I'm wondering if these guys, like, if they're struggling at different points in the run because of the different driving styles, and I think they're trying to just make up for lost time now in this mid-pack fight.
Joe Burgie's not happy with somebody on the radio. Feels like he got cut off as he's the lead car right now, 1 lap down. So Dylan, let's check back in. You opted to go for the tires to stay 1 lap down. You're currently 4th, though, of the 6 cars a lap down. How's it been since the restart compared to what you had and the struggles you had on that first run?
I have no idea why I am not. I mean, I don't know. The tires definitely, they're fresh. They feel good. I'm running a little bit more conservatively. I'm not driving as hard into the corners this time. I don't know. This is a difficult race for me to figure out solutions to problems that I'm having. I'm hoping that the gap between myself and the other lap down cars is due to the fact that I am maybe driving a little conservatively and maybe they're burning off a little more. Maybe it's just that I'm taking the wrong lines. Maybe it's that I'm just not good. I'm not sure. This has been a difficult race to understand, I think, for myself here. And I'm hoping to understand it sooner rather than later because we're well past the halfway point here.
And I think just double-checking my numbers, assuming they're correct, Joe Burgie pitted on the same yellow that you did. So he's also on fresh tires and is currently in the Lucky Dog spot, in the number 28 spot. And in theory, Bobby Krug and Varius Leszczynski also pitted, but about 10 laps before the yellow. That's why they were a lap down, or 2 laps down, is because they had already pitted shy of the halfway point. So they aren't on, they're not on 70, at this point, 90 lap old tires. They are slightly older, but not everybody on old tires, as maybe first would have thought. Everybody on track has been down to pit road at least once so far in this race. Looking at that number 7 car, that's Kyle Trudell in P12, for the moment minding his business. But again, David Washington's been trying to get the spot for a while. There's about a half a lane there on the bottom available. Washington opting not to push it. Remember, he is on a 3-week probation due to several bits of contact that happened at Montreal last week. So he needs to be extra careful going through the field, because if he causes any incidents, he will get twice the amount of penalty points as anybody else. But so far has been very disciplined, plus 12 positions on his march through the field. That's probably about 4th or 5th best.
Yeah, he's been hard charging through the field. He's been knocking on Kyle Trudell's door, but to no avail. He's not been able to really get around that 7, but the 7 looks like to be a cork in the bottle right now for this midfield.
And I just noticed, looking at my plus and minuses, I figure if we're going to talk the David Washington plus minus, it would be a crime to not shout out Eric Stanford, at least for a moment. He opted not to qualify in this race. There is his spot in P9. He is up 25 positions. And that's, he was about a 15th placed car in practice. So he has exceeded that, rides at a top 10 spot right now, is by far and large the biggest mover, has been doing a great job. And we haven't talked much about him tonight. Not that that's been as good of a thing as it is normally, right? Sometimes in the races where you have a lot of yellows, not talking about somebody means that they're kind of keeping their nose to the pavement and not getting in trouble. But we had mentioned that it has been a quiet fall for Tice. It's been a quiet rise for Eric Stanford. So definitely some kudos for that plus 25 right now.
We haven't talked about him. We've seen him in some of those shots, in some of those midfield, mid-battle shots, and he seemed to not really lose that much pace compared to the leaders in the long run. So I think he's going to be on the verge of at least a top 10 and maybe a top 5 if he gets lucky. He's trying to get around right now Ellenberg and DeWeese. DeWeese and Ellenberg both kind of fell off at the end of that first run, so maybe they'll get up to 7th and then go hunt down the leaders.
do what they can. Again, Deweese, we were real impressed with his Q effort, right? After starting in second spot, Phillips since gotten around him, he's a -5 at the moment, but Phillips not that far up the road, so he's committed to the outside. We talked about this split, right, where a lot of cars seem to go to the outside, and even late in the run, kind of vehemently stuck to it. But now he'll slice back to the bottom. He wants to cross over diagonal Phillip, who's going to squeeze him a little bit on the bottom, and we get a battle for P6 on track. Phillip maintains.
Yeah, that 94 doesn't seem to be too strong early, and I think that may have to do with driving style. You can see he's all the way to the bottom right here. And Deweese is going to get a huge run off of turn 4. Maybe he can do something with it again down into 1. But maybe this is time for Deweese to take advantage of a slower 94. And you see ahead of him another car that was good on the late run. Eberhardt is trying to take advantage of a potentially slower Freenage.
Yeah, Freenage up to 4th at the start of this run. Actually made a pass on Daniel Eberhard, who started 2nd, but lost that by the time he got to the start-finish line. Now he is trying to come back into his element better the later in this run. Freenage and Danson, 1-2 of the points, separated by 1 spot on track, but they're not really close to each other. You can't even see Danson. There he is on that run down the back straightaway. It's about a second difference between those two. Is Agnew Phillip now down to the bottom, as it looks like Deweese going to get this spot here on the outside. It may not be the only one. John Ellenberg in the 13 truck making moves for Extreme Performance Motorsports. He's almost all the way around on the outside. Another driver who's been quietly hanging out at the back half of the top 10, and good of a point is Indy as we watch one of those XPM cars on track. To remind you that at the end of this one, going to hand out the Extreme Performance Motorsports Underdog of the Race Award, and we have $5 bonus to the driver and $5 donated to 3 Square Food Bank. So we'll talk about that more post-race.
Who won that last week?
I have to double check so I don't say the wrong name.
I already feel robbed.
So give me 2 seconds.
I remember it wasn't
in consideration.
Yeah,
But speaking
okay.
of John Ellenberg on track, John Ellenberg was awarded the Underdog of the Race Award from last week.
I was not robbed. He did well.
Well, if we picked... Unfortunately, it's the under. If it was the overdog of the race and we picked the over on your finishing position tonight, we could give you that.
I feel like that's a dig. Is it a dig?
A little bit.
This is awful.
But as long as the Wawa car beats the Sheets car, then I think that
That's
you'll be
true.
happy at the end of the night. So it's the little victories.
It's the little victories. I'm 2 seconds away from being lapped down. Another lap down. This is awful.
Should have taken the lead. Take the lead lap back. I said it, but
I know.
He was going to get lapped again, though. Like, those tires are just not worth it. And even right now, just the fall off, it's a second.
he could have at least enjoyed being on the lead lap for 5 minutes, though.
Wow. This is painful. What is with all these short tracks? When's Dega? I want Dega back.
You got a couple of weeks.
Evan's version of 7 minutes in heaven is on old tires getting the wave around back in the lead lap, only to be lapped
just
again.
hang it on for a little bit, right? Well, if you like bigger tracks, good news, if any, is that the Throwback Series, I think, is at Charlotte this Wednesday. So that's a nice big track. You can stretch it out.
That's true. I'm so tired of the short tracks in every series. This is on you.
It's funny, New Hampshire's coming up, which isn't
It's a short track in my books.
mileage-wise, is it a short track? Technically, Iowa's not even a short track when you go by the mileage. But again, when you're doing kind of NASCAR national racing, these B cars, the Grand National Series doesn't go to the small tracks as much. So that's why it's short track heavy this year, because that's what the people want. Don't ask who they are. That's just the consensus. Working lap 105. We're in the home stretch. In fact, 105 and now 107 all the way up back to the race leader. So in the home stretch for this race, Michael Araya had at one point, I think, pulled like a second and a half to the race lead, but the difference now is only 0.6 of a second. He has been 0.2 of a second slower for the last handful of laps than the cars in second and third. So Sam Nieto P2, Matt Danson in the number 3 spot are reeling that 44 car in, and they're doing it fast.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that too just wanted to save tires, and Michael Lariah got a little antsy when he got the lead. And now Dance is looking to the outside, trying to take advantage of Nieto as they're lapping Dylan Coyle. This is going to be a tense fight to the end. I think these two are definitely going to catch Michael Lariah. But what can they do to get around him? It's been, difficult to pass because both lines have worked so far. We'll have to see.
Oof. This is a nice view.
Yeah, you got a great view of this. Give us the play-by-play for a lap.
All right. Nieto trying to go down inside of Danson, but unable to do so cleanly. It's hard because both lines are working so well. It's a juxtaposition. Oh, I've got to get out of the way. Another car is coming behind me.
Yeah, that's Daniel Everhart coming up the rear. He rides in the 4 spot. Nieto is almost all the way clear, but now funny to back is Matt Danson, and this side-by-side has allowed Lariah to gain a little bit for the first time in quite some time, but it's going to happen here. Outside at a turn number 2, Matt Danson is clear of Sam Nieto. Doesn't mean the 2's going to give it up, though. He'll drive it in on the bottom. Danson gives him a bit of space, but it's his. Danson now back to second. Can he get to the 44? The gap is 8/10.
I'm almost more concerned about that 90 car, if anything, because we were talking about him not really getting a move on. He has dispatched Andrew Freenage and is chasing down these front 3. He's the fastest one on track right now, and he's put a second gap on 5th place. He might be the one to really watch for at the end.
I think
that difference is 1.6 seconds for Everhart right now in P4.
I think my goal right now is to just try and enjoy the battles when they come to me. My word, I am that much slower. It's awful.
I mean, I promise you that you'd probably be outpacing me if it
that's not
is
true.
Is any validation.
I mean, you weren't really outpacing me at North Wilkesboro in that Wednesday race. I also did get 50 laps down. So
I led laps in that. I thought I had a chance, and then Gary and them kind of put it on me at the end, and it was a 3rd place, but survived it, right? I mean, that's the key.
Right.
Tonight, I thought would have been a little bit more of a night of survival, guys. We were talking about, what we saw at Richmond earlier this year, and granted, they are different tracks. I don't think you can compare Richmond and Iowa apples to apples, but that was a race with 12 cautions in 200 laps tonight, I think at 2. So the racing, it's been good, but it's been pretty clean for how hard a lot of guys have been driving. So I think it's been a great show tonight, and real impressed with what these drivers have been doing.
Yeah, especially in these tight situations when the cars get tight like this. I've kind of noted Agnell Phillip falling back into the clutches of this midfield, and this midfield getting dicey once again. Here comes Nick Silver. He's so committed to the outside, doesn't even bother looking to the inside. But
one of the
it's
best
been
cars on
remarkably
track,
clean.
by the way. I think Nick Silver needs some love. There's a lot of real good paint schemes in the field, and talking about paint schemes, want to give a shout out to IWRAPS, who's powering this 2021 RealSimRacing Winter Series. IWRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Go to IWRAPS.shop for more information. Through their website, you can select now pre-designed paint schemes to purchase and customize it to your liking by changing the colors, the sponsors, and more. You can use RSR Winter 20 at IWRAPS.shop, proud title sponsor of the 2021 RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series. So a fun partnership with them that helps us bring this series to you on RaceSpotTV every Monday nights, and you can see the IWRAPS on the windshield banners of all these cars. So talking about paint schemes, give our friends over at IWRAPS some love and encourage you to go to IWRAPS.shop for more info. Again, that $10 option is really cool because you can get a totally unique paint scheme and make it your colors and your sponsors. But even if you want, IWRAPS is known for some great custom stuff. So if you want something totally unique to you, you could reach out to those guys, and they will definitely get you hooked up. Watching this battle between Ellenberg, Silver, and Kamer for 9th, 10th, and 11th. 31 laps to go. Is going to fly by, Jonathan, if this thing stays green to the second half of this race. A couple of drivers have been forced to pit. I know Steve Durham just said that he's coming down pit road, and somebody pitted a few laps ago as well. I assume it was unscheduled. David Washington was in, and Matt Mara. So a couple of drivers towards the back have been forced down pit road. Don't think it's fuel-related because we made it to lap number 73, and the restart was with about 74 to go. So
Yeah, maybe damage from getting to the outside wall, maybe a little bit as we see Nick Silver finally has broken up with the high line. It's a long-term relationship I never thought I'd see end. And that beautiful Nickelodeon-style car is going to go down the inside of the 13, but I did mention something about Daniel Eberhardt. He has also dispatched Sam Nieto and is closing quickly on Danson as Silver tries to find the bottom. I think he's just having issues on the bottom. He just can't get around guys.
He's been trying to make this pass, feels like, for 40 laps. As he's been 10th and wants more, and that time by did have a nose in front in a battle for 9th, and now has cleared John Ellenberg for the time being. Of course, Kamer's right there as well. Up the road, Agnell Phillip and Eric Stanford are separated by only a 10th of a second as Silver going to go way up the road. That's a slide by Kamer. Wow, he squeezes Ellenberg to the fence. Those are the moments that we have gotten away with a few times tonight. Now they touch in turn 1, and Ellenberg getting bullied here as Kamer takes the spot.
Talking about Iowa nice, that is not Iowa nice. I don't think. That is not the definition, as Kamer's just bullying the car in the corner as well. He flew it into turn 3, almost into the wall, and now they're going to have a fast lap car who just got fresh tires behind him. So this is going to get really dicey, really fast.
So we avoid another one. Curious if Ellenberg wants to repay the favor there. And on board with the next car in this group, but not for position. That's Matthew Barra, who I mentioned has pitted recently. He's 3 laps down in 32nd spot. David Washington has passed Joe Burchie, by the way, for the Lucky Dog spot. That was a pass for 26th and 27th a handful of laps ago. So if there were to be a late race yellow in this one, Washington could be the driver to benefit. Washington was, top 15 car mid-race in this one, but has found himself on the back foot, currently running in position number 26. Back up front, though, it is closed in 0.4 of a second, between Lariah, who still leads. That's Danson second. And you caught that 90 machine from 1.6 seconds back. He's only 0.5 back now of the race lead, but he'd have to deal with Danson first, I would assume.
But as you can tell, he's taken no prisoners. He took Freenage and said goodbye, and he passed Sam Nieto and has said goodbye to the 2-car, who's run a beautiful race. I do have to commend Sam Nieto. What a brilliant job he did in that first half. But now they're going to hit lap traffic, and it's dense traffic. Look at this mess up ahead. This is going to get dicey for the top 3, especially as Danson and Eberhardt are so close together.
Yeah, this could be a deciding factor here is how they navigate the traffic. Morano going to go all the way up to the outside, but look at Danson there. He couldn't get a full run off of the corner because the 42 is there. So here comes Eberhardt. Lapped car to the middle. They're going to go 3 wide with the double O, hitting the eject button to get to the apron. And here comes Eberhardt now. He'll squeeze Danson to the outside wall. He'll look to clear on the inside in turn number 3. Can Danson get back to the throttle? No, he can't, and Daniel Eberhardt slides to P2. Here's the counter, though. It's Danson now crossing to the inside.
Crossover's been so strong out of turn 4, but if these two keep fighting, Michael Lariah, gets a little bit of a free pass, but even while fighting, they're still closing in on that 44.
While this is happening, Lariah committed to the outside, so it allows these cars at the bottom to almost get side by side with the leader when they're in the middle of the corner. That time by 21 laps to go. They'll work around lap traffic. That's the number 27 to Jeremy Miller up top. It'll leave us with just 23 cars on the lead lap. But again, now this time it's Eberhardt. Slowed down slightly by that lapped car up top, but the 90 is blitzing the field right now. We talked about how slow he was on the restart. He has saved his equipment well and seems primed to fight for the race win.
Now they have clean track. Now it's a dogfight for at least the time being. It's about 6 seconds up the road to the next lapped car. This 90's taking no prisoners, but Matt Danson hasn't been dropped off. He's still hanging around.
If the leaders may come together, if it is a physical battle for the race lead, don't forget about Danson, 0.4 off in third, then it's a 2-second difference down to Sam Nieto fourth, 2.5 seconds back to Andrew Farinaj, where he's been all night in position number 5. So we mentioned 3 different race winners over the course of the first 4 weeks of this. It was Dominic Howell in the opener at Daytona. It was Farinaj on the first and only other short course of the year when we went to Richmond. But it has been Danson the last 2 weeks. Neither of them in this immediate battle at the moment. Eberhard tried to bottom that time, didn't work. He'll have 18 more opportunities.
Lariah did show some pace at Richmond and did seem decently strong. He was a bit off strategy, but now this is just a pure on-strategy fight to the end. And Eberhard, again, he's a shark in the water. He's taking no prisoners.
He's taking
no traffic. Exactly, and more traffic up the road there, so it not as thick as what we saw earlier, but could always be a factor. That's where races on long green flag runs are won and lost, right? You have to conserve the car, but at this point, these drivers aren't going to tiptoe through traffic. They're going to be aggressive, and here's Eberhard. He's all over the bumper to the inside. In turn number 3, a side-by-side battle for the lead. Eberhard needs to be able to get off the corner. Good, he does so. Lariah fights back, but now he's alongside him.
Stay side-by-side for too long. That 03 is going to get in the way, and it's going to complicate everything.
And Eberhard better again. Lariah slow that time at turn 2. He'll do his best to drive it into 3 and 4. He'll be better off the corner, but the 90 of Eberhard pushing up, not yet clear. Where does the 03 go? He'll ride right in the center of the racetrack. Does it cause the 44 some hesitation? Lariah has to lift. The 90 is going to use the lapped car as a pick, and new race leader. With 14 laps to go, Daniel Eberhard breaks out in front.
Textbook move by that 90, leaving that 44 out there, and Lashinsky was just holding his line. That's what you're told to do as a lap car, and that 90 not giving the 44 space. Lariah had to check up, and off goes Daniel Eberhard.
And now he hopes that that's it. Trying to run this one out to the end. He'll have to deal with traffic, but there was no doubt that Daniel Eberhard was the better car. He's on the bottom when everybody else is running the outside. I mean, that had to have been the play. I don't think the slow restart was necessarily by design, Jonathan. Who knows? But it wasn't just dropping from second to third and then very quickly third to fourth afterwards, right? It was the first half of that whole run where he was just slower, went all the way down to 5th, and obviously was playing the long game. We haven't had a yellow since. It paid out for him, and he's 12 laps away from his first win of the year. Maybe an opportunity to get back into that conversation again. You know, you're chasing down Danson, and coming into this evening, Daniel Eberhard was 53 points behind him, so you're going to get the race win if it finishes, but Danson's third, so you're only going to gain 7 points, right? I mean, it's a very long road back to the top of the board, so it may not necessarily be a race win if you can hang on to this that gets Daniel Eberhard back and into the championship conversation. This is not the Cup Series, where you have 30 weeks, ups and downs, abilities to have some bad races and come back to playoffs to even things up at the end of the year. 1, especially 2 bad weeks in this winter series, and it dashes your championship, but at least a statement here for the 90 car, just straight up beating these guys on a long run.
And it's a good recovery drive from last week. You remember, we talked about it earlier, he spun and, you know, teleported out of the center as he hit the wall and disconnected. And unfortunately, that was his day done. Finished well down the order. But this is a nice statement for Eberhard, saying like, "Hey, I'm still here and I'm still running." And even for Lariah and Nieto, you know, we talked about Farinaj and Danson a lot, but those have been the 3 really running the field. Have been the 2, the 44, and the 90.
They have been. There's been other drivers that have been close, but nobody, I think, has been able to take that extra step like these cars have. Here could be a big battle for a position and for a big critical point as Andrew Farinaj is trying to pass Sam Nieto right now. 2 positions behind Danson would, in theory, give Danson 2 positions, or 2 points higher than him in the points. The gap would go from +1 to +3. Farinaj trying to limit the damage here to just another single point interval if he can make a pass on Nieto with 8 laps to go.
Yeah, Nieto, it looks like he's struggling right now on that outside line. Farinaj, he's equally struggling on the other side of the racetrack. He's getting up almost into the marbles in turns 3 and 4. This could go on to the end of the race now. I'm going to knock on all the wood I can find and hope there is no late race caution for either Eberhardt, Lariah, or Danson, because that would really dash some of their chances and maybe give someone like Braxton Ruiz or Nick Silver a chance at this.
And all these lead cars, in fact, with plenty of tires still available on pit road. I almost said the one and only yellow of the night because the very first one happened on lap 1. We didn't have a chance to really do much, so it almost feels like that lap 5 or lap 6 restart was really just the start of this race. But that middle yellow came just shy of halfway when pit stops were going to happen anyway, so it didn't change the strategy at all, and these drivers were able to use just that one set of tires, at least for the guys up front that haven't had any issues thus far. But Riaz has tried this move several times on the bottom. Now he's trying to go to the outside of Nieto. It's a lot more difficult to do that.
I'm not enjoying the fact that this is happening with them right behind me. This race, man. This race.
Don't be that guy.
You might want to move, because I think Freenach is driving with authority because he's trying to find a way around the 2, and there's just nowhere for him to go.
I wasn't that guy, guys.
There you go. Now you got a better view. It's better to watch him out of the front than the rear view anyways.
Right, but, now we've got Joe Bergie. Okay, well, you know what, Joe? Maybe I should race you a little harder because you were on my lap. You are on my lap, but not for much longer.
I'm noticing the right side damage on your car. Do you feel like that has contributed, or is that just kind of an added layer? We're not going to blame it on the damage.
I think that's an added layer. It came trying to get out of the way of these lapped cars, and actually, I just completely lost control early in this run when I still had a chance to be in the lucky dog spot. And I almost took out the 3 car. We had a nice chuckle about it on the radio, so that's part of the reason. Now, to give you a little bit of insight on where my tires were at the end of the run and what some tires, including maybe my own, might be on this run. 47, 47, 68 from inside to outer on my right front.
He's using them, even though it's a night race. White flag going to be in the air this next time by. You can see another car going to go a lap down. That's here on Winemaster, I believe, being passed up by Daniel Eberhardt. We saw the battle between Friedrich and Nieto seemingly sizzle out as the 88 hasn't been able to get any more, and the white flag now in the air for Daniel Eberhardt. It has been a lot of ups and downs for just 4 weeks deep into this Winter Series, expected to fight for the championship here on Monday nights after he was close to one in the Cup Series this year, maybe closer than he's ever been. But it's been a little bit of a slow start. It's going to be a step in the right direction and a statement win from Iowa. First win of the Winter Series, Eberhardt captures Iowa.
What a drive by that 90 machine. Like that restart, we talked about it, he fubbed it a little bit as we're crashing at the start-finish line a little bit. But that was an excellent drive by Eberhardt. He passed back all those positions he lost, and a really good statement win for that 90 machine.
And the fireworks fly atop the virtual Iowa Speedway. A good win for Daniel Eberhardt as he celebrates on the front straightaway. Far from the first time he's been in RealSimRacing victory lane. If he sticks around, it'll be far from the last. One of the best drivers in this series, and tonight he was the best on the long run. Played the strategy correctly. He was in the mix all night after starting in P5, but he was better when it mattered the most. Makes that car last to the end, and Daniel Eberhardt is your race winner of tonight's IWRAPS 150. Let's take a look at your IWRAPS full race results. It's Eberhardt with the win. The final margin of victory, 2 seconds ahead of Michael Lariah, P2, and Matt Danson in third. We'll talk with all of those drivers in just a minute with Nieto and Freenage in the top 5. Braxton Deweese sliding to position number 6. It's Nick Silver in 7th. Agnew Phillip 8th. Eric Stanford 25 spots up from where he started, finishing 9th. And Kyle Kamer rounds out the top 10.
John Ellenberg with a nice solid finish in the 13. Shane Parrish, didn't really talk about that 81 much, came home in 12th. Kyle Trudell in 13th. Dylan C. Jones, again, another car we really didn't talk about, survives to 14th. Brian Chambliss, we saw him stay out of the caution pit, go all the way to the tail end of the field, comes home 15th. Dominic Howe in 16th. Joseph Tice started towards the front, a disappointing one, I think, for that one car, in 17th. Ross Cato in the 12. Sian Kalist in the 43, and Michael Kaczynski round out the top 20.
Rest of the cars in this one going to be off of the lead lap, 1 lap down, all the way through P26. That's going to be James Ross, Aaron Winemaster, Gary Weaver, David Washington, Jeremy Miller, and Tom Morano. It'll be 2 laps down through 30th, and this is Joe Berge, Steve Durham, Marius Leschinski, and Bobby Krug.
Rounding out our field of 36, Dylan Coyle, Matthew Mara, Nick Mara, Garrett Hess, who had that opening lap crash, Anibaya in the 09, who we saw spin earlier and appeared to have some sort of technical issues, finishing 64 laps down, and Steve Soa after that lap 1 crash, finishing in 36th.
The night's to forget for some of the drivers at the back here from Iowa, but a very clean and entertaining race. All of a sudden, 5 weeks down, 5 to go. We're halfway through this championship. We'll take a quick opportunity, though, to step aside, and when we come back, we'll talk with your top finishers. Daniel Eberhardt, your race winner from Iowa. You're watching the RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series on RaceSpotTV.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
And back live from the virtual Iowa Speedway, where RaceSpotTV's coverage of the 2021 Real Sim Racing Winter Series is powered by IWRAPS. IWRAPS is changing how you find virtual wraps for iRacing. Visit IWRAPS.shop, and through the website you can select a pre-designed paint scheme to purchase and customize to your own. Again, that's IWRAPS.shop. Proud title sponsor of the 2021 Real Sim Racing IWRAPS Winter Series. Back in the RaceSpot booth, Evan Pasoko with Jonathan Burke. Let's go trackside now and talk with your race winner. It's his first of the season for Daniel Eberhardt. He was in the mix kind of all night tonight, but ends up on top after he was the best car on the long run here at Iowa. We had a mid-race yellow at about lap number 73, and then at that point, it went basically the same distance to the end of this race, and we are chatting with the driver of the number 90 machine now. We'll bring Daniel into the broadcast booth. Daniel, congratulations on the race win. Has had speed, at other points in this, and I know that you would like to be in a position to fight for the championship at this moment, but I guess better late than never, and an impressive late drive in this race to steal it from the guys who I'm sure felt pretty confident halfway.
Heck yeah, I kind of looked like a sim racer tonight. I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, I finally, after 15 years on this thing, learned how to save. Or not 15 years, I mean 10 years. Jeez, I'm making this game older than it actually is.
Feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, it feels like it. How many leagues we run, or how many leagues we run, or races we run in RSR, and just the class of the field gets tougher and tougher. And I thought Michael was sitting pretty good, and then I said to myself, man, he's burning it up. He's just up there just running and gunning, it felt like. And finally, the tires off of his car fell off, and tires come right around for me.
At what point did you kind of lock into that? Of course, second for that restart just past halfway, which turned out to be the last one, and it didn't seem like a good start. And in fact, you fell all the way to fifth. I mean, was that by design, or was it when you fell to fifth that you said, okay, I need to conserve because these guys are going real hard?
No, it wasn't by design. I would call that a good old Jeff Gordon or Dale Jr. restart right there, just sleeping. I guess they were in first gear. It sounded like the 2 and the 44, but no, I didn't want to fall to fifth, and then I got to fifth, and I was like, well, I'm going to just stay here and ride right behind Andrew, and then about 50 to go, I'm going to start making my run for it, and then I got around to 30 to go, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not catching them as quick as I was, and I should have been going a little earlier, but no, luckily it fell right into my hands. It's kind of scary when you're sitting there hoping, man, I hope everybody keeps it straight, and Iowa, I mean, we haven't had dynamic tracks in a while, but that was fun seeing somebody be competitive running against the wall. And I know they always have been, but the bottom at Iowa used to never be there, and now it was there tonight, and that was pretty fun to see.
You had a real good chance earlier this year at Richmond, back on the short track, obviously, and kind of in that wheelhouse. What is it about the short tracks, and maybe here specifically at Iowa, that you felt like kind of played to your advantage that let you get the dub?
I'm not sure. I just ran real easy. I didn't try to push myself. I just tried to be smooth as I could, and it worked out. I don't really have a knack for these tracks. I'm really not that good at them. I don't try to be good at them. I don't really care for short tracks. If you know me, you know I like restricted plate racing, and I love the mile and a halfs like Atlanta and Texas and Charlotte. I love tracks like that. I love the dog legs, and I love, I don't like Homestead. So when I was competitive tonight, it kind of surprised myself, but it's good to surprise yourself sometimes.
We look forward to next week. I don't really know what to call New Hampshire. It's definitely not a short track, but the way it races might as well be. What's going to be the outlook as we head into the second half of this season and go back to New Hampshire next week for the first time in some time?
I'm not excited for New Hampshire, but I know Steve Durham is. He loves New Hampshire. He's from there. No,
he better win, right, for how much he talks about New Hampshire?
Yeah, just for aggravating you on Facebook about it.
Yeah.
He's like, put in New Hampshire. Why wasn't New Hampshire in the Cup Series? And I was like, man, you like New Hampshire that much? Dude, it is just a flat, bigger Martinsville to me. But the banking's weird because it's like the bottom. It's sometimes banked more in some parts of the corner than the middle, and then the top changes. It's the craziest thing, and it's like a grip strip right through the middle. So, no, I think with these cars, they're the funnest cars right now. They're the most raciest car, and in iRacing right now. So I really enjoy it. So I think New Hampshire is going to be a good race, and guys really surprised me tonight and kept it straight for a lot of laps.
It was a great night of action. We'll let you get out of here, Daniel. While we have you, anybody you want to say hi to?
Yeah, I want to give a thanks to you guys for putting this on each and every week, and Evan, how grateful we are for that. And I want to wish everybody out there watching, people who may watch the replay, Merry Christmas, and I hope and pray that 2021 is a lot better than 2020 is for us right now. And just once again, all my teammates, thank them, thank my fiance who watches every race, my grandma who watches every race, and even my buddy Ryan, who just got into iRacing, tuned in tonight, and I want to thank him for watching.
A good show you put on for him. Race winner tonight in the IWRAPS 150. Daniel, congrats.
Thank you, buddy.
The race winner tonight in round number 5. We'll move down to the driver who came home in second position for this one. Jonathan, I'll hand things off to you. Michael Araya, leader late in this one for much of it, but he ends up in second. You're talking with the driver of the 44.
So, Michael, it was a great restart you had off of that caution midway through the race, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. You kind of ran out of pace towards the end of the race. What happened there for the 44 machine?
Just simply went too hard that last run. Man, I thought I had it in the bag, but with about 20 to go, all of a sudden, Daniel, he was just closing in fast, and I talked to him briefly, and he was just super saving early in the run. And I was talking with my teammate Sam there, and we kind of both blamed each other in a way for losing the race. He was like, by me getting around him so quick, it forced him to use up his stuff to keep up with me. But at the same time, that prevented him from holding off Matt and Daniel. So just was going simply too hard there. Even with the pace I was running, I felt fast though, but it was just simply not enough. Daniel, he had the right amount of save early on in that run to make up the difference in the end. And one thing that was helping him too was he was really good wrapping the bottom, and I simply couldn't do what he was doing. I think it's just like more of like a comfort and driver style thing. I felt really good up in the top in 3 and 4, and I just kind of stuck with that just to get that launch off corner exit. But man, he was just rolling the center really well, and I caught some of these lap cars just at the wrong place at the wrong time too, and that
Like me.
that made me give up some time. So no, Dylan, you're giving me some heads up at least, so I appreciate it. But yeah, just going a little too hard there.
And you mentioned the different lines. Eberhard was on the bottom, you were on the high line. It was nice to see two different lines working and how committed you were to that high line.
Oh yeah, this is one of the few tracks left, I would say, on iRacing where you can still run a top line. Man, I miss the old days on the V6 Star model. I really hope we'll get back to that at some point. But with the progressive banking out of Iowa, it gives you that freedom. You're still kind of stuck a little bit with running a lower line in 1 and 2, but 3 and 4, with the way the banking just transitions off the corner, you can just get a really nice run, and it makes for some options. But ideally, I wish the cars were turning a little bit better. I think it would just give you a little bit more maneuverability, just being able to switch up your lines and stuff. But still an improvement over a lot of the tracks that we go to.
And next week we move away from the cornfields of Iowa into the Northeast and New Hampshire. What are you looking forward to there?
I'm usually decent at New Hampshire. I mean, it is all about track position there, though. It's a very tough place to pass at, but you just gotta make sure that you're managing your tires, make sure you're not abusing them on corner entry, and especially corner exit. It's very easy to slide your stuff there. Yeah, it's really just kind of all about, setting yourself up to be there at the end, get a decent qualifying run in, and just kind of maintain throughout the race and be close enough up to the front to make something happen.
And before we let you go, Michael, anyone you want to thank out there? Any sponsors? Any family members?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Profile Machine Products for being on board my car. Also got to thank my teammates, Joseph Tice and Sam Nieto, for just sharing notes for race weekend and putting in time and practices, and really helps a lot.
All right. Well, congrats on the second place finish. You were close for the win at the end. You led some laps, but it's still a good point save for that 44.
Oh yeah, it's definitely something I can carry some momentum forward with. Last weekend, the second place at Montreal, and then here tonight, definitely some good points nights. But I really want to get a win in the series. Definitely the ultimate goal. So hopefully I'll get it done at some point.
Michael, before Jonathan lets you go, I have a question.
Yes.
When it comes to steering ratio for that race, now, at least for me, I was really struggling with getting the car to actually turn. I felt like everybody else was doing it much stronger than me. Did you have the ratio set at the default? What was the idea there?
Yeah, so I run the default ratio, whatever the setup gives me, which I think is usually 12-1. Most of the time. It's just something I've gotten used to over the years. I know there's other people that will experiment with the ratios, and I know people on total opposite ends of the spectrum where there's some really fast guys that run 8-1. Then there's other guys that'll run 16-1 and make it work. So I think it just kind of comes down to comfort and and what you feel is best for you.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I guess the idea here is I just sucked. Jonathan?
All right, well, that was our in-race reporter, and again, congrats, Michael, on the second place finish, and we'll hope to see you with another good finish at New Hampshire.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And now we move down the order from second place to third place with current points leader Matt Danson. He had a solid night running in the top 5, but came close to a win at the end. Just was not meant to be. But you grow your points league, Matt, and how important is that for you?
Yeah, that's cool. I was disappointed not to. In fact, like I was every time I would be gaining on the leader, then Everhart would rock up and take it away from me. So I was never able to get those bonus points, which is useful. But it was fun. It's probably one of my worst tracks, so I felt reasonably okay about things.
Now, we talked a lot on the broadcast about that high line and the low line, and you were a driver that kind of was just all over the place, just trying to find the fastest. Was there any one you kind of settled on, or were you just trying to, find where the flow was?
I usually like to run the bottom everywhere, and so that was my plan going in, and then Michael was making it work up top, and I was just starting, and I noticed Daniel obviously was staying pretty much on the bottom, but then he was doing like a weird run the middle and sort of arc it down. So I was just getting desperate. I was just trying anything I could, trying to learn on the fly. And for a little while, I thought I might have had the golden ticket there in that second sort of long run coming towards the finish. But then I just wasted too much time sort of, battling with Sam. And I feel like I kind of, buzzed the tires a little bit after that, got sort of sideways coming out of the corners a couple of times. And I think that was game over from there.
It was still a solid points race. You actually grow your points lead by 2 positions, as Freenage did not lead a lap either. So it's still a good points day, I think, for the 05 for you.
Yeah. What's our lead at? How much we got?
I think you were up 2 positions on Freenage, and he didn't lead a lap, so I don't think there's any bonus points there. So I believe it grew to +3 in your favor. I might want to make Evan confirm that in the chat.
I think right now it's showing at 4 because Farinaj didn't have the decals on his car, which is a 1-point penalty. So that's going to be extensively reviewed, obviously, but right now I'm showing it's a +4.
No, that sounds exactly. I didn't see those decals either, Evan, so let's lock that one in. Take those points away. Yeah, it could. But that's cool, yeah, 4 points. I mean, Drew is like one of those guys who's just good absolutely everywhere. So, that 4 points, that can go pretty quick. So I've got to stay on my game. See what happens.
We move from the cornfields at Iowa. We go to the Northeast. You get to fight for a lobster at New Hampshire. What are you looking forward to for that track?
Now, I normally really like Loudon, but I don't think I've ever driven the Xfinity car there. So I guess we'll see. I'll probably go there and run 17th, but at this stage I'd be reasonably semi-confident for a reasonable sort of top 3 run, but we'll see.
And before we let you go, anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any family members out there?
Yeah, I guess any family or friends who may or may not be watching. Thanks to you guys as well for putting on everything. I actually really enjoy, because the race finishes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for us, so it's actually pretty enjoyable just to sit back during the day and watch that on the replay. Although I was a bit upset I didn't feature too much on the Montreal. I thought I'd get heaps of airtime, but got nothing. But who else do I want to thank? Horizon Racing Team. Thanks all the boys there. All the competitors. It's actually, like I said, I think last time out, it's really enjoyable racing with everyone here. It's a good bunch, and the league's really well run. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we appreciate having you, Matt. It's great that you got a 3rd place finish, grow that points lead, and we'll see you in a week's time in Loudon.
Thanks, man.
All right, so that was our points leader, Matt Danson, coming in 3rd. We got a man that really likes being on camera, really likes being up front and fast, Evan.
Yeah, and I think, our producer Hugo joking downstairs that if he's too far ahead of everybody else, we're not going to show him all the time. So tonight, mixing it up in traffic, plenty of time for certain. But that's our top three. Thanks, of course, to all of them for giving us the time. Let's take a look at what the points look like coming out of this one. Again, it is unofficial. Things could change. But this is what we have as of now. Matt Danson grows his championship lead from 1 point to 4 over Andrew Friedage. Look at Daniel Eberhardt, plus 5 spots with a race win. He's up to 6th in the points, but again, the deficit is still 46 points, still looking like a battle between first and second, and then everybody else third on the back. But at the halfway point in the year, Andrew Friedage is not leading the points. And listen, if I ran 5th in this series, I'd be elated, right? Like a consistently P5 car. Not often, though, do we see Friedage kind of peak at that P5. So what's he going to do at New Hampshire, right? A track we haven't been to in a while. Matt hasn't, raced the B cars there ever, but he has some experience at New Hampshire. We're halfway through the year. So at this point, you have a bad week, you wreck out of a race, you lose 20 points, that's it, right? Danson and Friedage have to be perfect. And they're going to be around each other. They're probably going to be battling for first and second on most nights. This is going to be a great second half of the year, I think, Jonathan, headed off into New Hampshire next week, which, again, is going to be fun because it's been a while since we've raced there.
Yeah, and it really poses a lot of question marks, I think, New Hampshire. Like, is there going to be a really single-file race where track position's important, or is, the tire model a little forgiving, and will we have multiple lines, Anytime I go to New Hampshire, I'm always sweating a little bit going into those corners and just making sure I'm perfect every time in and out, so it's going to be fun, Danson saying he doesn't have experience there at the moment in the B car. Might be a struggle for him, and Friedage struggled a little bit tonight. We'll see at New Hampshire, but I want to point out Lariah, Howe, Cato, and Eberhardt, they're still in the fight, and a good week at New Hampshire next week, like Lariah and Eberhardt obviously won, Lariah coming home second. I would not count them out yet, especially not only with New Hampshire, but we still have Dega, we still have the Indy Road Course, and those are other, two big question marks that we really don't know who could come out of victor there.
And we can't really settle it, by the way, with Dega because we can't, get Dega out of the way and then recess because this is the second last week of the year. So it's all going to happen quick. If somebody has an issue with Talladega, they're only going to have the finale at Vegas to pick up the pieces, and Danson and Friedage are one bad week away from being right back down there with those drivers where then it's, 5 guys within 20 points from 30th position down to about 7th or so, and big names like Lariah and Eberhardt who can easily go out there and get a handful of wins. And, I know it wasn't the greatest of nights, Dylan, but I'll get you back in to give your thoughts at Iowa before we close this out.
Well, I actually wanted to look forward instead of
That's
look
fine.
behind because
Put it behind you, it's over.
Yes, it is over. I'm actually already practicing at New Hampshire, and I can tell you a little bit about the track right now and what the drivers will be facing as we come here next week. So it's, I think it was Daniel that was talking a little bit about how the banking is so different. The very low groove, the low... if you're trying to go down the inside, there's almost no banking there. The second and third grooves where it still looks like asphalt, and then it gets darker on the outside. The fourth and fifth grooves near the wall, you wouldn't run there. I think the second and third grooves are going to be a big ask, a big want for everybody in the race. You might see some short shifting. I'm trying that out a little bit. And right now I'm running pretty consistently around 32.0. A second probably slower than everybody else, if we're being honest. But you might also see some diamond runs. And I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that, but it's basically where you kind of swing on the outside on corner entry and then slow the car down enough where you can almost take a beeline, hit a late apex, and use all of that momentum to run down on the rest of the straightaway. So those are my little things that I've seen or felt, I guess, through just me doing this right now as I just flipped over with one hand on the wheel.
Very calm in the flip. So looking forward to New Hampshire next week. And again, that kicks off the second half of this season. 5 races down and 5 to go. Also going to be the last show for us here at RSR, this side of the calendar. And then we actually get into the 2021 side of this 2021 Winter Series. But until next about, that's it for us here tonight from the virtual Iowa Speedway. So on behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing and the crew over at RaceSpotTV and our broadcast team tonight, for Dylan Coyle, our in-race reporter, for Hugo Luis in the production trailer for helping us out, along with everybody else, myself, Evan Pasoka, Jonathan Burke, thanks for tuning in. Congratulations to Daniel Eberhardt, a first-time winner. Matt Danson gains on his championship lead. We're in store for a great second half of this season. We're back next Monday on December the 28th for the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2021 RealSimRacing IWRAPS Winter Series can be found exclusively right here on RaceSpotTV. Until next time, good night from Iowa.